cool. So, as you may or may not know, New Zealand is an island, so we tend to get some pretty diverse weather patterns. Basically because of the fact that we have coastline in close proximity to wherever you are in New Zealand, you can go from having like 30-degree beautiful sunny weather to like -10 and snowing in like literally minutes. And even though that probably sounds ridiculous, I've personally experienced that before, particularly in mountainous regions, like going to National Park or into the Southern Alps or anything like that. Weather just changes quickly, so it's always good to kind of know what the weather's doing, especially if you're going into an area that is prone to flooding or prone to high winds or anything like that. So basically just kind of use common sense, but depending on where you're going will depend on at what point you might cancel a trip based on weather. So if, for example, you're a kayaker and you know that you shouldn't be kayaking a river at a certain level, and you know that there's high rainfall expected, then obviously you're going to go and look at the weather and figure out whether you should be calling it off or not. Same thing with hiking. Be really careful if you're going into areas that are exposed. So tops of the Tararuas, Rohinis are all really susceptible to really high winds. And like, as you may know, like Tessa a couple of weekends ago went on a trip where they basically had to turn back and couldn't keep going because the weather was that strong, or the wind was that strong. So just keep it in mind. If you're ever not sure, my sort of way of gauging weather is by taking from multiple websites. So I've put 3 up here, which I tend to use. Met Service is the most unreliable in my experience. Really good if you want to know whether it's going to be like a sunny-ish day in Palmy, but for getting accurate weather on mountain areas, it's actually pretty average. And you'll quite often find, even with their like snow reports for Turoa ski field and stuff, they tend to give you optimistic reports. Obviously they want people to go to the ski fields and spend money, so it's sort of not always reliable. But Met Service is definitely like New Zealand's like premier weather website. So by all means use Met Service, but kind of take it with a grain of salt. So I tend to look at what Met Service is saying first, then kind of don't believe what they're saying and go to the other 2 websites. And if the other 2 websites are saying something similar, then I kind of believe Met Service. If they're saying something completely different, I'm like, Met Service, you don't know what you're talking about, and I just stick with the other 2. So one up here is called wire.no. This is a Norwegian website, which you're probably wondering why the hell I'm giving you that. It's basically one of the biggest databases of weather stations in the world. So you can get weather from any like part of the country, any part of the world. So this is really great for you international students. You can take it home and use it. I find this is really good because it's got a 4-hour block weather chart. So it tells you what's happening 4 hours, every 4 hours of the day. So it's like basically doesn't give you just the average weather, which is like, oh, it's going to be sunny for 75% of the day. It tells you it's going to probably rain for 10 mils between, 1 in the morning and 6 or whatever, and then it'll break it down. So it's really good, and you can literally type in like anything into the search bar and it'll find the closest weather station. So if you're going to Cape Palliser, just type in Cape Palliser and it'll come up with the closest weather station, even though Cape Palliser obviously isn't like a main centre or town. So that one is definitely like double thumbs up for me. Really, really good. I used it in Norway and that's where I got onto it, and it was just always really accurate. So definitely use that one. And NetView is another one which is not as user-friendly as wire.no, because you have to understand weather charts to read NetView. So NetView will give you really good like rain forecast charts, but again you have to understand like what you're looking at. So if you can't understand what isobars mean or what it really like looks like on a map, then I would say to either learn how to read the maps or just don't use that website, but totally up to you. I definitely think it's really valuable for wind and rain because it does give you a really good idea of like how weather's moving, and so then you can kind of be like, oh yeah, well if I go to that part of the country it's probably going to be over here and miss me. So I find it quite good, but yeah, completely dependent on how kind of serious you are about wanting good weather or whether you're just kind of happy to gamble. So yeah, that's weather. Tracks, mats and huts. All that information is on the dock website, so that's got a really great range of resources. Most of you have probably already been on there before. They also have a lot of information about mountain biking trails as well, so it's not just tramping information. And the other thing that you might find useful is they have an interactive map. So it's basically a topo map that you can actually log into, and you can move it around and see where the huts are and stuff. So it's quite good if you're quite a visual planner and you maybe don't want to do like the generic crossings. You want to like, you know, find your own way. So that's really good. So yeah, and the other major thing when you're planning a trip is who's in your group is really important. Emily will probably cover a bit of this, so I won't kind of hang around on this point, but yeah, just kind of good to know what people might have in terms of health issues or allergies or anything like that, because the last thing you want is for someone to like drop half dead on a trip and not know what might be wrong with them. So it's just always good to kind of have that in the back of your mind. And I know it probably like seems silly, but you'll be surprised the amount of people that are like allergic to bees and things like that, and they might not say anything, and then you know you're out and something happens and you don't know where their EpiPen is or whatever. So just be aware of that. So next slide. Yep, so just in a bit of information about dock huts. Again, go to the dock website, it'll give you information, but the way that New Zealand dock huts work is you have a basic or a standard hut, and basically that means that you pay more for a sorry, is it standard now or is it serviced? Serviced and standard. Oh, I don't even know, they changed it. It used to be 3 hut systems, so it was like $5, $10 and $15. Now it's just $5 and $15, so it's like kind of split it. But yeah, so basically the only difference is the standard of the facility. So obviously you go to a basic hut, it's more basic facilities. It tends to have not as nice a building, and also can sometimes not have access to like gas, things like that, whereas some of the standard huts will have like the whole shebang, solar power and everything. So it's sort of up to you guys to make sure you know what kind of hut you're going to, and buy hut tickets if you are using huts. I definitely recommend that you pay for the services. New Zealand is definitely not the best at dishing out money to our conservation groups, so we are not a very profitable business. So DOC definitely like needs the support. So if you really love the huts and you want to use them, definitely pay, and then hopefully they'll be around for generations. Yeah, most huts will have drinking water, so that's normally fine, but you might want to also check that before you go, and it's really good when you jump on the website, it'll tell you if there are any alerts on the track as well. So sometimes there can be huts in the summer that run out of water, so they'll actually like put an alert on the page and let you know. But generally speaking, you can tend to expect that most huts in New Zealand will have clean drinking water. If you are a bit nervous about that, just take enough for the whole time, but tends to be not an issue, or take water purifying tablets or something like that so you can sort that out. And yeah, huts range and standards, which is what I said. So, next one. Okay, so this is just a bit of an idea of what kind of gear you might take for a day trip, and then I've added another slide which talks about what you'd add to that for an overnighter. Obviously, it's dependent on what kind of day trip you were doing. If you're going to the Manawatu Gorge, then like probably don't need all of this stuff, but if you're doing like the Tongariro crossing, at that point you might consider this amount of gear. So a sturdy backpack is really great. Obviously you'd take a day bag, but when you're doing an overnight you might have a tramping pack which looks something like this. Definitely recommend a good tramping pack if you are doing an overnight. You don't want stuff like on the outside of your pack. There's a massive risk of it getting caught on something and you losing it, or alternatively getting absolutely drenched by the time you get there. Reliable footwear, so hiking boots are ideal, but if you don't have those, good sneakers are usually fine, but it's obviously again depending on where you're going. If you're heading down to Stewart Island where you've got bogs up to your knees, you probably don't want to wear sneakers or you might never see them again. Raincoat, so again, there's different ranges in raincoats. You can get like your Gore-Tex, which is like this, fully seam sealed. So for those that don't know, a jacket that is fully seam sealed has like this sort of plastic looking tape on the seams. So basically what that means is if it rains, the water cannot get in through the seam. If your jacket isn't seam sealed, it's water resistant, not waterproof. So if you get over about 20 mils of rain, you'll be wet inside your jacket. So if you do seriously like want to get more into tramping and you think you might come across bad weather, I would definitely recommend a Gore-Tex jacket, but again, it's an expense. They're about $300+, so up to you. But if you're already going to go out and spend the money on a jacket, get a seam sealed one. It'll cost you an extra like $50 and it'll be like twice the jacket for like less than half the money in addition. So yeah, lightweight shirt and shorts, pretty explanatory. Thermal tops and bottoms, again pretty self-explanatory. Jersey, gloves, woolen hat, sunglasses, sun hat, again self-explanatory. High energy food, you'll be amazed how many people will not bring enough food on trips, and you never want to be without enough food. So if you like aren't sure what that involves, just like, I don't know, Google it or talk to your friends, but basically anything that's high in sugar. So I tend to have a rule where I take like 1 bar of chocolate per day of hiking, so you know, you can never be like short of chocolate, because the last thing you want is to run out on your first day and then you're stuck with like shitty peanuts. So just like, yeah, go all out with the food. I feel like that's one area that don't worry too much about skimping on weight. Just take what you'll enjoy eating, because obviously you need energy. Lunch and drinking water, again, water purifying tablets if you think you're going into an area where that might be necessary. Sunscreen, insect repellent, always a good one. Map, compass, directions, so that kind of goes back to our planning. There's heaps of topo maps available from the club, so these are really awesome. They are always good to have, even if you know where you're going, but just in case like you want to change your plans. So say the weather's shit and you end up wanting to go in a different direction to the original plan, you kind of know where you can go and what your options are, so definitely recommend taking that. It's not that much extra weight. Toiletries and toilet paper. My biggest recommendation for that would be if you want to decrease the size and weight of that kind of stuff, I buy these little plastic things from like Plastic Box, which is like a wee Tupperware shop in Palmy. They cost you about $2, but if you go onto the Kathmandu store and buy like the Kathmandu ones, they're like $30. So buy one of those and then you can just fill it up with your like shampoo or whatever from home. If you want to get real into it, you can get all-purpose soap, so that can basically wash your dishes, wash your clothes, you can shower with it, you can do everything. That's kind of a little bit overkill, but if you really like want to get into that kind of thing, then that's a good option as well. And obviously just like your normal toothpaste, toilet brush. Don't really toilet brush. Necessary. Yeah, so that's always like good to take smaller like little compartments and things. Obviously, if you've just got like a tube of toothpaste that's nearly finished, like save that little bit for like your trip. You see so many people that bring like the newest bottle of shampoo, the newest bottle of toothpaste, and they just end up carrying all this extra weight that's so unnecessary, and you just look like a mother. First aid and medication, that's always a good one. Again, a lot of it you can make yourself. So I have a first aid kit which is like decked to the nines. It's got everything in it from like medications to survival blankets. If you're not sure about how to make a first aid kit, jump online again and just see what people recommend. But in terms of medication, I would recommend you have all of the antis, so like anti-inflammatories, antihistamines. You want ibuprofen, paracetamol are your two like major ones. Maybe codeine if you're gonna like go out on your own and you think there might be a serious situation where you might need to like get out on your own without killing yourself mentally from the pain that you might be in. I know that probably sounds a bit extreme, but like when I was in Norway, I took codeine because of that whole situation where if I got into trouble, at least I would have enough pain relief to get myself out of the situation. Yes.
Where do you get your codeine?
You can get it prescribed from a doctor. So, like, legitimately, if you do need a prescription for codeine, but if you go to a doctor and you actually, like, legitimately tell them why you need it. So I basically said, I'm going hiking in Norway for a month, can you prescribe me some codeine? They will prescribe it to you if you ask for it. But of course you can't go get it across the counter at a pharmacy. Yeah. Probably depends a little bit on the doctor as well. So don't quote me on that one. Yeah, and again, like antihistamines is another good one. You never want to find out you're allergic to something when you're in the middle of nowhere, so it's good to just have that in case you're worried about an allergic reaction to something. Yeah. And then toilet paper, yeah, don't forget that, that's always good. Headlamp and torch, and then, that's got that on there twice. Yeah, so that's that bit. Does anyone have any questions, by the way, as we go? Like, if there's anything, just shoot your hand up and I can answer. No? Okay, cool. We'll do the next one. Sweet. So overnight, the next one that I definitely would recommend is a pack liner. So they look like this, and you can get them about $5 from Bivouac. Firstly, they are really good because they are can also be used as a survival or bivvy bag. So if you get lost, you can jump in there and it'll keep you dry and warm. So you put your sleeping bag inside it. The other thing is it will keep everything in your pack dry. So if you have heavy rain, or if for some reason you fall into a river and your whole pack goes under, you'll have still everything in the pack dry. Most packs will have rain covers and stuff like that, but there's always situations that you don't account for. So definitely would recommend a pack liner. They're so cheap and they're so good for so many things, because again, if you get lost, it can be used as a device to attract attention, bright orange. They also sell some really cool ones that have chessboards on them, so if you're lost and got nothing to do, you can just play chess. Hut pants, yeah, so when you tend to be hiking, it's always good to have your pair of clothes that you wear and then the pair of clothes that you kind of can get into at the hut, because the worst thing is when you get to a hut and you're drenched and then you've got no dry clothes to get into. So I'd always recommend to always keep those two items of clothing very separate. So have your hut clothes and your walking clothes. And if the next day it's raining again and you're I don't want to get into my wet clothes, just suck it up, princess, because you'll be so glad you did when you get to the hut and you've still got a pair of dry clothes. The worst thing